Good afternoon, everybody. It is Michael Holson, and we are back with another video. So, this video is going to be covering adding basic fractions with the same denominator, adding fractions with different denominators, and then adding mixed numbers. So, let's go ahead and get started with the beginning. The first slide is going to be adding fractions. Now, adding fractions with the same denominator. So, to add fractions, there are three simple steps. Step 1, make sure the bottom numbers, the denominators, are the same. Step 2, add the top numbers, your numerators. Now put that answer over the denominator. Step 3, simplify the fraction if needed. Because when it comes to fractions, no matter if you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, you always have to reduce your fractions, even if the question does not ask you to. It's just something you have to do. So let's go ahead and add these fractions together. So if you take a look at the bottom, you notice we have 2/5 plus 1/5. Now, in order to add these together, the bottoms have to be the same. So if you take a look, your denominators are the same. So all you need to do is add the tops. So 2 plus 1 is 3. And now you just keep your denominator the same, so 3 over 5. Never add or subtract your denominators, because if you do, you will get the answer wrong. If they are already the same, keep them the same. Simply add your tops, put it over the existing denominator, everybody. And that's as basic as it gets for adding fractions with the same denominator. So let me show you one more example. Another example here, we have 2/5 plus 1/5. Now again, all we need to do is simply add our top numbers together. Since our bottoms are already the same, all we do is take the denominator, transfer it over. Bam. And add your tops. 2 plus 1 give you 3. So 2/5 plus 1/5 is 3/5. So that is how you add basic fractions with the same denominator. All right, let's go ahead and get to the next slide, everybody. The next slide is going to be adding fractions with different denominators. Now, this is kind of a headache when it comes to fractions. I believe adding and subtracting are the most difficult because they have the most steps to follow. Now, to add fractions with different denominators, what you have to do is sometimes you need to add fractions with different denominators. To do this, change the fraction to equivalent fractions with a common denominator. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a step called finding the LCD, the lowest common denominator. What you do is take both of your denominators, 3 and 5, and I want you to write those numbers down and then count multiples of each number up. Now a multiple of a number, say we had 2, and we wanted to find the multiple of 2. We'd just go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. Multiples of 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and so on. Now, that's how you find the lowest common denominator. You take each denominator and you count the multiples up. So here's 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Now for 5, the multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and you can keep going. So what you need to do is just find the lowest number that these both have in common. So for this case, it's going to be 15. So let's go ahead and add these together. Now, remember the LCD is 15. So 1/3 as an equivalent fraction is 5 over 15. Now, remember again, the LCD is 15, so 1 over 5 as an equivalent fraction is 3/15. So now that we have 5 over 15 plus 3 over 15, and our denominators are the same, we can now add them together, everybody. And when we add them together, it'll give us 8 over 15. Only add the tops, leave the bottom the same, everybody. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and get into an example to kind of explain everything that went on right here, just in case some of y'all are not understanding what's going on. So I'm going to make a new problem, and it's going to be written as followed. We have 1/2 plus 1/3. So what you do is take both of your denominators, 2 and 3. Now count the multiples up, 2, 4, 6, 3, 6, 9, until you have a common number. And you always want to have the lowest, because that's what the L stands for, lowest common denominator. All right, so we know now that our denominator is 6. So let's go ahead and put that in. Bam. Now, to find your top number, we can use a little bit of multiplication. Take a look here at the bottom. Now, 3 times what number? If we take a look here, 3 times what number will get us 6? Now, if you said 2, you would be right, because 3 times 2 is 6. Now, in fractions, if you're finding the common denominator, whatever you do to the bottom, you do the same thing to the top. If we multiply the bottom by 2, we want to multiply the top by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So we'll plug that in here. Bam. Next, we'll go to the top, and we'll do the same thing here. 2 times what number will give me 6? Perfect, 3. Because 2 times 3 is 6. Now remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. We multiply the bottom by 3, we have to multiply the top by 3. So 1 times 3 give us 3. Sorry about that, let me switch it over here. So we'll get our 3. Perfect. Now, next step, since we have the bottom numbers the same now, all you need to do is add your top numbers together. So 3 plus 2 will give you 5. Put it over your existing or our new denominator, and voila, 5 over 6. So 1/2 plus 1/3 is going to get us 5 over 6. Perfect. Good job, everybody. Now let's go ahead and get back to the PowerPoint. Now, that's what all of this was showing here, was just how to find the common denominator. And then what we did was we raised both fractions to 5/15 and 3/15. And here, simply add the tops together, get your 8, put your 15 at the bottom, and you'll have 8 over 15. Now that is how you add fractions with different denominators. So let's go ahead and get to adding fractions or adding mixed numbers. So let's take a look. Sometimes you need to add fractions with whole numbers and different denominators. So to do this, you need to change the fractions to equivalent fractions with a common denominator. Now if you take a look, this is the same example that we went over before. Now, our denominators are 3 and 5. So since both fractions have different denominators, we need to find the lowest common denominator. Now, we take 3 and count the multiples up. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Now we're going to do the same thing, but for the second denominator, 5. 5, 10, 15. Now notice the lowest common number was 15. So our lowest common denominator is 15. Next slide. Now the next slide is showing you how we're going to raise 1 1/3 and 1 1/5 to fractions that have the same denominator. Now, if you take a look here, we found out that our new denominator was 15. So 3 times what number will give us 15? So 3 times 5. Now again, whatever you do to the top, you do, or whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 1 times 5 will give you 5. Now the bottom, let's take a look. We're taking 1 1/5 and raising that to an equivalent denominator. So again, our common denominator is 15. Now to find your top number, multiply it by the same number you multiplied 5 with to get 15. So since 5 times 3 is 15, we do the same thing to the top. 1 times 3, which will give us 3. Now when you get to this portion and we have both of our fractions raised with the same denominator, just carry the whole numbers over into your new fraction. And now when you get here, simply add the tops, add your numerators. 5 plus 3 will give you 8. And then add your whole numbers together. So 1 plus 1 will give you 2. So your answer is going to be 2 and 8 over 15. Perfect. So let's go ahead and get to another example. So here we have 1 and 1/2 plus 1 and 2/3. So since I know that the bottoms here are different, I know I'm going to have to raise my fractions. So anytime the bottom are different, I always put equal signs and I'll draw the blank fraction sign because I know I'm going to have to raise it and get a new denominator. So I'm going to have 2 new fractions. So notice all I did was I brought over my whole numbers here because that's all you have to do at this part is just bring over your whole number because those are not going to change. The only thing changing are our fractions because we have to raise them to an equivalent denominator. So by doing that, take each denominator again. So we're going to start with 2 and we're going to count the multiples up. 2, 4, 6. And we're going to go to our next denominator and also count that up. So 3, 6, 9. So notice our common denominator is going to be 6. Going to be 6. So I know that the bottom number is now 6. And all I need to do is find my top numbers. So let's take a look. 3 times what number is 6? Perfect. 3 times 2. So whatever you do to the bottom, remember you do to the top. So 2 times 2 gets you 4. Now let's go to the bottom or up here to the top and change this. So 2 times what number will give you 6? Perfect. 3, because 2 times 3 is 6. So whatever you do to the bottom, make sure you do to the top. So 1 times 3 will give us 3. Bam. And now that we have both of our fractions raised, we can simply add the top numbers. So 3 plus 4 give you 7. Keep your bottom the same. And we could add our whole numbers together. 1 plus 1 give us 2. Now, this answer is improper. You have 2 and 7, 6. Notice that the 7, 6 here is an improper fraction. So what we have to do is leave our whole number alone for a minute and convert our improper fraction over. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 6 and divide it into 7. Remember, the first video I showed how to convert improper fractions to mixed numbers. So 6 can go into 7 one time, because 1 times 6 is 6. Do your subtraction here, and you're left with 1. So your mixed number is 1 and 1/6. So we have 1 and 1/6. Perfect. But do not forget your whole number here. All you got to do, though, is take your whole number that you held out of the operation and simply add it to the whole number that you came up with when you converted. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So your real answer will be 3 and 1/6. Bam. And that is how you add mixed numbers with different denominators, everybody. So again, thank you for tuning in and watching this video. I hope it helped a lot. My next video is going to be on multiplying fractions, so I hope to see everybody there. Y'all have a great day, and I'm out.